What is up, everybody? Welcome to the MMA Engine and welcome to the main event deep dive for UFC 277. We have the rematch, Julianna Pena going against Amanda Nunes. Looking forward to this fight. As always, I am here with Uncle Weezy. Weezy, what is up? Are you looking forward to this main event here?
Yeah, this is a good one. Rematch. We got the former greatest of all time who's trying to regain that title by getting this win back against Julianna Pena here, trying to prove that first win maybe was just a fluke. But we're going to have to wait and see. There's a lot of stuff to break down here. It's kind of a wide line already, even though Nunes did lose the first fight. But, these rematches are always fascinating to break down because we always have to resist that urge to be lazy and assume that the fight is going to take place like the first fight took place. So we got to kind of go deep. We got to examine all the angles here, Brady, to make sure that we don't fall into any traps here, and that we got a really good idea of how this fight's going to take place. So I'm looking forward to chopping it up with you in the chat here today.
Absolutely. As always, guys, we're going to go through the tail of the tape, the pro experience, UFC experience, the finish stats, the striking stats, the grappling stats, the strength of schedule, and the current form between the fighters as well. We'll talk about it with me, Uncle Weezy, in the chat, and then we'll talk about the fight from a betting perspective to see if we can make some money on this main event. Before we get started, if you guys can please leave a like, subscribe here to the MMA Engine. It is always appreciated. We have a ton of content coming today at 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. Me and Lou Betcha will be going live for the Contender Series. Going to be talking our best bets for that. And then back here, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time after the Die Hard MMA podcast, me and Weezy will be doing some probability, talking about the over-unders, the fight goes, the fight doesn't go for the card as well. So lots going on the MMA Engine channel today. Let us shout out the chat real quick before we get started. We got Headley One. What is up, Headley One? First one in the chat. We got Propaholic in the building. Victor in the chat. We got Headlocks. We have Mushroom. We got Daz. Thank you all for hanging out with us on a Monday, talking some main event for 277. As this basically Stat Diggers 2.0, kind of. But for the main event, we're going to dive extra deep into this main event. All right, Weezy, let's get started here. We have the tail of the tape. Julianna Pena, she is 32 years old, 5'6" with a 69-inch reach. Amanda Nunes, 34 years old, 5'8" with a 69-inch reach. Amanda Nunes is going to be 2 years older, and she's also going to have a 2-inch height advantage, same reach there. Julianna Pena is 3-2 in her last 5 fights, a submission loss against Valentina Shevchenko, a decision win against Nico Montano, a submission loss against GDR, a submission win against Sarah McMahon, and then a submission win, of course, against Amanda Nunes her last time out. As far as Amanda Nunes, 4-1 in her last 5 fights, a knockout win against Holly Holm, a decision win against GDR, a decision win against Felicia Spencer, a submission win against Megan Anderson, and then a submission loss to Julianna Pena her last time out. So Uncle Weezy, in terms of the tail of the tape, kind of the same. Not much sticks out other than Amanda Nunes is going to be a little bit taller and then Pena a little bit younger.
Yeah, I mean, Pena is going to be the smaller woman here. It's definitely Nunes who's bigger. You could just see in the first match, it's like, wow, Nunes is bigger than this girl. But Pena's 2 years younger. So for the tail of the tape, I've got it pretty much even here. But when we move down to these experience stats, we're going to see an advantage for Amanda Nunes. Amanda's got 11 more pro fights. She's got over 100 more minutes in the pro cage, and she's got a pro fighter for 1 more year. Amanda also has the UFC experience advantage with 7 more fights and over 55 more minutes in the cage. So, not only is Amanda considered to be the GOAT, was she the former champion, a 2-division weight class champion, but she's also more experienced by a pretty significant margin here over Julianna Pena.
Yeah, fair enough. My bad. I was checking one of the props that just came out that we'll talk about on probability that really stuck out. But let's get into the experience a little bit, Weezy. We see that both of these fighters are very experienced. Of course, Amanda Nunes is going to have the more experience here, but curious to your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, the experience advantage is always useful, but the thing about this is it's interesting to see how the experience plays out according to the finish stats here, because we've got Amanda Nunes here in terms of the finish stats and the durability here. I'm giving the advantage to Nunes. Now, Nunes has the better overall finish stats in comparison to Pena. So overall, 81% for Nunes, 72% for Pena. So they're both excellent finishers. And at the UFC level, Nunes also has the edge here, finishing 71% of her 14 wins, while Pena is finishing 58% of her 7 wins. Nunes is getting more wins by knockout overall, while Pena is getting more wins by submission overall. Julianna has been an equal opportunity finisher, though, at the UFC level, as she's got 7 wins by knockout. Or I'm sorry, Julianna's been equal opportunity at the UFC level, having 2 wins by knockout, 2 wins by submission. But Amanda Nunes in that 71% finish rate at the UFC level, it's been 7 wins by knockout and 3 wins by submission. And it's important to note that at 135 pounds, so I'm just taking the data here for Amanda Nunes and throwing out the 145-pound fights, because I don't think that they're very useful, because she didn't have to cut weight for those fights. 7 of the 8 finishes that Amanda Nunes has at 135 pounds came in the very first round. So just soak that up. If she's finishing fights, she's finishing them early. The other finish came via attrition versus Rocky Pennington in round number 5. I don't know if you remember that one, Brady, but Rocky basically tried to quit on a stool after the 4th. I mean, Amanda was absolutely putting it on her. And she quit, or she tried to quit, but her corners sent her back out there, unfortunately. And then Amanda finished the job in the 5th round. Both of these ladies have been finished in both of their UFC losses, so I wouldn't give either one the durability advantage. But, in terms of the finishing numbers, you got to give the edge to Amanda Nunes here.
Yeah, but like you said, both are very good finishers. Both can absolutely be finished, and the odds makers seem to be all over that. Seeing BetOnline open up the fight doesn't go at minus 300, which is just silly to me, but that's what they did. But yeah, Weezy, let's get into the striking stats a little bit. So this fight it's just so weird to me, because I went through all the numbers and I watched the tape, and I watched a lot of Julianna Pena's career, and I'm like extremely, unimpressed. She had a very close fight with GDR up until getting submitted. She had a very, very close fight against Nico Montano. She got submitted by Valentina. Sarah McMahon was having success up until, Pena was able to submit her, and just very underwhelmed watching the tape on Pena. And then all of a sudden she comes out here and, she survives that first round against Nunes. She starts the second round, and she kind of fights fire with fire, if you will. And she stood and banged with Amanda Nunes. And we saw like there was a change in momentum. There was a different look in Nunes's eye. And then Pena just kept throwing down. She was eating a bunch of big shots. Her eye was a little messed up, but she kept going forward, just throwing big shots. And Nunes was, happy to engage. And we saw Nunes slow down and eventually just kind of give up in there and get submitted. So, I mean, it's tough with the numbers, because I think Nunes is clearly the better striker, and it's really not even close. But, Pena has that dog in her. She's tough. She's very tough. She's never been knocked down. She has a good chin. And she's willing to fight fire with fire. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts on these striking numbers.
Yeah, I saw that last fight exactly the same way that you did. What I saw was Amanda Nunes looking like she was at a party in the first round. She was smiling. She looked like she was having a great time. When she got top position there after getting the takedown,
Yes.
she was just smiling at the crowd, and even in the second round, they're coming out and they're both throwing hands, and Amanda's still smiling. She's enjoying herself. But after about a minute and a half or 2 minutes, I would say that smile was no longer there, because Julianna just kept walking forward, kept throwing 4 to 5 strikes for every one that Amanda threw. And you could tell the weight cut must have gotten to her. She wasn't expecting that pace. She got drawn into it by Julianna, and we're going to have to see. She's going to make changes this time around. She's not going to allow that pace to be put on her, because there's a very simple way to solve that problem, and that's just not letting Julianna put a pace on her on the feet, because you can actually take her down pretty easily. But in terms of the striking, let's just go over the numbers here real quick. Both ladies have impressive striking ratios. They both throw more volume than their opponents and absorb less than 3 significant strikes a minute. Neither one of them has ever been knocked down at the UFC level. But where the differences are, Brady, is that Nunes is more accurate. She's slightly better defensively, and she has the far better power numbers. She's landed 5 knockdowns in 16 fights. She's averaging 0.49 knockdowns per 15 minutes, and she's finished 7 of her 14 UFC wins by knockout. So while, they both have got impressive striking accuracy, Pena is landing 1.34 more significant strikes per minute than her opponents. From Amanda Nunes, It's almost 2 more significant strikes per minute than her opponents. Nunes is throwing about 2.8 more significant strike attempts per minute than her opponents. Pena throwing about 2.4 more significant strike attempts per minute. So, they're both doing very good things in terms of outlanding their opponents, outvoluming their opponents, being fairly defensively responsible, not getting knocked down, but it's the power numbers for Nunes that jump off the page, and it makes you realize that you really can't give the striking advantage here to Julianna Pena. Not when not only we got 7 knockouts here for Nunes at the UFC level, but she's finished 7 of her 8 wins in the very first round. She's explosive, and that power that she has is fight changing.
It absolutely is. It absolutely is. I'm curious to see the game plan of Nunez this time around. So in the first fight, she did go to that grappling really early, and she had success. And we'll talk about why. I mean, Pena, 22% takedown defense. She's definitely content to be on her back. And we saw Nunez, like you said, she was having success. She was having some fun. She was smiling. It was easy. Another walk in the park for Nunez, as she thought. And then Pena was able to kind of survive in that first round. So I guess my question is, how does Nunes approach this fight? Is she going to come in here and go to the wrestling, the grappling early, or is she going to is it going to be like a feel out process, or I don't know. It's a really tricky rematch here, and let's talk about these grappling stats a little bit because kind of like the striking. I think Nunes is she's a black belt. I think Pena could be a black belt as well. Pena has been submitted a couple times, but Pena is a good grappler. Nunes is a very good grappler, very good wrestling. Nunes is going to have the better takedown defense as well. Pena, 22% takedown defense. Let's talk about these grappling numbers a little bit, Weezy, as they are in favor of Nunes as well.
They are, but even though on the offensive end, now just in offense, these ladies' numbers are very similar, actually, right? We got 55.17% and 56.52% takedown accuracy. 2.43 takedowns per 15 minutes for Pena. It's 2.53 for Nunes. 0.91 submission attempts for Pena, 0.87 per 15 for Nunes. 39% control time for Julianna Pena, 33.17% control time for Nunes. So it's on the defensive end, though, that Nunes has been way more responsible, Brady. Nunes has 81.25% takedown defense in comparison to that pitiful 22.22% takedown defense for Julianna Pena. She's allowing only 0.58 takedowns per 15 minutes is Nunes, while Pena is allowing 2.12. And most importantly, Nunes only allows 8.43% control time, while Pena is allowing 36.6% control time. So Pena is very good, though, at surviving those bad spots on the ground and using her conditioning to push a grappling heavy pace that many opponents can't keep up with. Pena is clearly most comfortable in the grappling exchanges, as she has spent over 76% of her 99 minutes in the UFC cage in control time positions for and against. So Nunes does seem to have the ability to win more minutes on the ground if she brings a responsible game plan here, at least according to the overall numbers. And I think, Brady, how she wins this fight is by managing the pace of this fight, right? Usually Pena wants to be in those grappling positions, but when that fight was standing in the second round, she just decided, I'm going to stay in her face. I'm going to out-volume her. And you saw how quickly that approach got to Amanda Nunes. Now, if Amanda knew that was in Julianna Pena's back pocket to just out-volume, pull a Jonathan Pierce, and just walk forward throwing a ton of volume, she would have probably been working on those reactive double leg takedowns to take down Julianna Pena, who folds like a lawn chair. She's had 18 takedowns shot on her, and she's given up 14 of them. And she's spending over a third of her UFC cage time being controlled by her opponents on the cage or on the mat. So Nunes, if she can control the pace of this fight, I think that she can keep the fight standing in the first round, where she's going to clearly be faster and more powerful. And then as the fight wears on, if Julianna starts pushing that pace on the feet, Nunes can take her down, make Julianna wear her weight, hold her down, avoid submission attempts from the bottom, and win minutes there as well. And we've seen Amanda Nunes over a 16 fight sample size, over 150 minutes in the UFC cage. She's controlling her opponents 33.17% of the time and getting her takedowns over a 56% clip, 26 takedowns on 46 attempts in only 16 fights. So she absolutely has the capability to ratio Julianna Pena on the ground like she's been ratioing her previous opponents, 33.2% to 8.43%. So that would be about a 4-to-1 ratio of winning the control time positions. That's winning 80% of the control time positions. So win those early minutes on the feet, slow down Julianna by taking her down later on in the fight and remaining defensively responsible. I think that, the path is absolutely there for Amanda Nunes.
Yeah, and it very well could be. I mean, you take a look at the career of Juliana Pena and not just like the Nunez first round. There's been many instances where, people are taking her down. We saw Jessica I took her down. Jessica I actually racked up over 5 minutes of control time. We saw Kat Zingano take her down 3 times. Kat racked up 9 minutes of control time. Shevchenko took her down twice. We saw Nico Montano take her down 3 times, rack up some control time. Sarah McMahon took her down 3 times, racked up 7 minutes of control time. So yeah, I think the path to victory is there for Nunes to do that. It's just, does she have the cardio to do that? Again, and that's kind of my concern because I think if she had like the 5-round cardio, and it's weird because she has went 5 rounds before, and she has went 5 rounds before at 135 pounds, but against Felicia Spencer, she went 5 rounds. That was at 145. Against GDR in 2019, that was at 135, right?
Let me look at the advanced stats because I know that she's fought GDR at 135. Yeah, it was at 135 according to my stats.
That's what I thought. And she went out there and took down GDR 8 times. She racked up 18 minutes of control time. So it's not like she hasn't been able to do it before in at 135, right? But yeah, that last fight was just a bad look. And she came out with, of course she did. Like she came out with a bunch of excuses. She said she was going in there with injuries. She had COVID. So maybe that could have been it. But just weird to see Amanda Nunes just completely gas out after, 6-7 minutes of a fight.
Yeah, it was like that nightmare because she was landing shots, and like Paul Felder, I remember once when he was calling a fight, he talked about the nightmare that he would have, that he was hitting his opponent in his dream with his best shots, and the dude would just keep coming forward, absorb everything, and he's like, there's nothing scarier than that, and that's kind of what Julianna did there, and you just saw that you saw the expression on her face change when she realized that this girl wasn't going to go away and was going to keep in her face throwing that volume, and she broke. She flat out broke. No hooks in, rear naked choke, tapped immediately after getting taken down. It was something to behold. So, like you said, she's went 5 rounds twice at 135 pounds. It was against, or I'm sorry, 3 times: Shevchenko, Pennington, and then GDR. But the rest of the 5-round performances were, at the 145-pound weight class. That was the Felicia Spencer fight. So, yeah, it's interesting. We're going to have to see how she handles the later rounds here. But we know that Amanda Nunes is the bigger fighter. She's the more powerful striker. She's the more efficient grappler in terms of being able to win minutes. And, we're going to find out soon who's got the better strength of schedule here. So, Amanda Nunes should be able to have success early in this fight.
Yeah, for sure. Let's see what the chat's saying a little bit, and then we'll talk about that strength of schedule here. Let's go all the way up here. Adam's saying, I'm taking the dog. Amanda gassed out bad in the last fight. Yeah, a lot of people are on the dog and Pena this week. We got Gus in the chat. What is up, Gus? We got Rob in the chat. Nicole saying, what's good, everyone? My play is the fight doesn't go. Can't trust the side as of right now. Let's go DWCS. Content soon. Absolutely. Yeah, the fight doesn't go, I think, is good, but the price, we'll talk about the price in a second. They're kind of all over that. Rob said, I'm kind of big on Amanda. Hopefully she is smart there. I feel like Nunes is more mentally motivated for this one. I think so as well, but we'll have to see. I think Amanda is more focused. She's like, F this B, let's go. Exactly. Probaholic saying it could be scary or one of the easiest hit of all time, but the over 1.5 rounds for a women's fight is minus 185. I don't understand that at all. The first fight, did the first fight sneak over? The first fight did go over, I think, right?
The first fight, yeah, I think it was more than. Let's see, what do we got here? First fight.
I think it.
Oh
Yeah, I
wait,
think
I'm in the wrong spot here. It went 506 seconds, so it went over 1.5 by 36 seconds. Or I'm sorry, 56 seconds, because 450 is the 1.5 mark. So yeah, it went over.
Yeah, the over could be a good look. You just have to be worried about that Nunes first round finish would be the only thing I'd be concerned about. Amanda is gonna get that belt back. Does a bear shit in the woods? There you go.
Bear definitely shits in the woods. We know that here at the MMA Engine.
And then Lou saying Pena round 2 sub plus 1800 if you want to just bet on the replay of last fight. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like this fight probably does play out different, but let's talk about the strength of schedule a little bit, Weezy. Obviously, both fighters have fought some very, very good competition.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you look at both of these ladies have a ratio sitting at 2 or above. So the average record of a Julianna Pena opponent of at the UFC level is 5.33 wins and 2.67 losses. And for Nunes, it's 5.94 wins and 2.25 losses. So 2.64 ratio for Nunes, 2 for Pena, and Nunes fighting the slightly more experienced competition. But in the wins here, we see a 2.9 ratio for Nunes and a 1.55 ratio for Julianna Pena. And that one of those is against Amanda Nunes. So if you throw out that win, obviously Nunes's wins have been spectacular. 6.21 wins and 2.14 losses is the average opponent of Amanda Nunes that she's beaten, with 8.36 total fights. So definitely like the overall numbers for Nunes, the wins for Nunes. It's the losses that are actually better for Pena. She's losing to women that have an average record of 8.5 wins and 2 losses. So 10.25 total fights and a 4.25 ratio. So yeah, Nunes has lost to Pena and also to Kat Zingano, who didn't have the best records. So that's why that is a little bit off. But yeah, it's Nunes who has the better strength of schedule here. She's been fighting the best competition, and she's even been fighting up a weight class as well against bigger women. So yeah, definitely got to give the strength of schedule advantage here, just like the grappling advantage, just like the striking advantage, just like the finish stats advantage, just like the pro and UFC experience advantage to who? Amanda the Lioness Nunes.
Yeah, and that's why this fight's so tricky. It's like I taped and I'm like, where does Pena win this fight outside of Nunes going in there and pulling another massive stunt? So I'm kind of struggling with this one. We could take a look at the line, and do want to remind everybody that Nunes in her last fight against Pena closed around like minus 900 in her last fight. The line is wide once again. Nunes opened up minus 250 this time around. Opened up in December 12th, so a while ago, and is now minus 265. Nunes went all the way down to looks like minus like 350. And then just as of late, money's been pouring in on Julianna Pena, and Pena is now plus 225 here. I do expect the line to keep continuing to close up. We saw Pena go in there and pull off the big upset the last time around. I think people will still be on the Pena train. For me, I mean, I'm not betting this fight from a money line standpoint. I'm not laying minus 300 on Amanda Nunes with these question marks that I have. But I do think if Amanda Nunes shows up, she's 110%. She's motivated. I think she does run through Pena, but I'm just not convinced that she is. I do question her mentality. She's a mom now. She has a kid. She's been fighting forever. She's now 34. So I do have some question marks to the point where I don't want to lay minus 300 anywhere near that. But I will not be taking the dog shot here on Pena. I'm going to take a look at other ways to play it, and we'll talk about some other props, Weezy. But any thoughts on the money line? It's a lot closer than last time, but that is because Pena did pull off that upset.
Yeah, the thoughts on the money line is that you can make really good arguments as to why you could take either side here. But if you're on that Nunes side, you could say she was minus 900 last time. And here we are, we can get her at minus 265. How do you pass up on that? And then you could say for Pena, oh yeah, well, she won that last fight. She handled everything that Amanda could deal out, and she proved that Amanda maybe maybe her days of cutting down to 135 and being the greatest of all time at that division, maybe those days are over. And you're getting the current champion at plus 230 on DraftKings right now. And you're like, I'll take that. I'll bet that. So you can make a really good argument for either side here on the money line. And I could see how this will be a very hotly contested fight and how people are going to say that there's value on both sides here. I'm leaning just after looking at all the numbers, it's really kind of hard to see where Julianna Pena is better than Amanda Nunes. What we don't know is, what the weight cut is going to go like for Amanda. Are we going to see her weighing in first right away? Because if that's the case, maybe she is ready. Maybe she is maybe she is still hungry enough to want to come back here and avenge that loss and prove to everybody that she still is the greatest of all time and that this was just a fluke. So we got to wait till Saturday to find out. But my hope is that the money keeps coming in on Pena, and then we see Amanda Nunes weigh in the first 3 or 4 people of the day, be on that championship weight, look ready to go. And then we could say, if that happens, I might be looking to bet Amanda Nunes round 1, round 2 to just go out there and shave ass and finish this fight. But I got to see her weigh in first.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point. Waiting and seeing how Nunes looks. Does she, like I said, does she show up early to the weigh-ins? Is she one of the first ones? And does she look good? I mean, I saw a picture of her earlier today, and she looked phenomenal. But we gotta wait. We gotta see the weigh-ins first, and I think it's a great way to attack it there. So let's take a look at some of the other odds here, Weezy. If you are in the chat, let me know what you are betting for this fight. Are you laying the hammer on Amanda Nunes? Are you parlaying Amanda Nunes? Are you taking the dog shot on Julianna Pena? I know a lot of people that are. Are you looking at some props? You looking at some overs, some unders? What are you guys in the chat looking at? And let's take a look at some of these props here. So we see that the over under is set at 2.5 rounds. The over 2.5 minus 115, the under 2.5 minus 115. So about a pick 'em there. The fight goes to decision on Bet Online plus 240. The fight doesn't go to decision is minus 300. It's like minus 215. Fight doesn't go on 5 dimes. Plus 170 fight goes. I'm not laying minus 300 on anything in this fight, Weezy.
Yeah, it's hard to do that. I've got all of these ladies' fights at the UFC level here sorted by quickest to longest here. So there's 22 combined fights for Pena and Nunes at the UFC level. Right now, we've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Only 6 of them have went to decision out of 22. So over 70% of these ladies' combined fights have finished inside the distance at the UFC level. So that's a good number there. If we're looking at an under 2.5, for instance, under 2.5, I've got a count of 12 here out of 22. So just a little bit over 50% of their combined 22 fights have finished under 2.5 rounds. So that's also something you can hang your hat on if you're looking for violence. But, it's just going to be interesting to see which Amanda Nunes shows up. The one that was showing great conditioning and the ability to push a pace for a full 5 rounds against, like in the Pennington fight, like in the Jermaine Durandamy fight, which was the most recent time that we had seen her at 135 pounds, which was December 14th, 2019 was when Nunes fought Durandamy. And then we hadn't seen her at 135 pounds for 2 years until we saw that her fight Pena. So, now that this is 2 fights in a row for Amanda at 135, hopefully her body is ready for this weight cut, that she's prepared, and that it won't affect her in the later rounds as adversely as it seemed to this time around.
Yeah. Let's see here. Taking a look at some other props here. We have Nunes KO plus 140, Pena KO plus 900, Nunes sub plus 550, Pena sub plus 450, Nunes inside the distance minus 135, Pena inside the distance plus 325, Nunes in round 1 plus 300. I'll be honest, just nothing's really sticking out on this fight from anything sticking out for you.
No, not really. I mean, other than, I think that Nunes round 1, because like I said, right, Nunes has had all these finishes. 7 of her 8 UFC finishes at 135 pounds have been in round 1. So that just tells you, at 135, she's huge, she's powerful, and she's deadly and very explosive. But when you have that unique combination of skills, Brady, it also lends itself to you not being able to push that pace for a very long time. It's hard to be explosive and dangerous for a full 5 rounds. So I think that Amanda Nunes' best win condition is going out there and shaving ass in round 1. But I also have to admit that with Pena's willingness to play off of her back and her piss poor takedown defense, we could see Amanda Nunes take a different path, a more responsible minute winning strategy in this rematch in order to slow the pace down of the fight to her level, to where she can do her best work and really render Julianna Pena to be ineffective.
Yeah, and that's the problem for me. The problem for me is like I think Nunes could absolutely win in the first round. I think Nunes could absolutely kind of run through Pena here, but they're just not really giving us a break with these odds. Like they're only giving us plus 300 for Nunes in round 1. They're only giving us they're minus 125 for Nunes inside the distance. Like we're not getting a break. Yes, Nunes or Pena won the last fight, but still, like they're all over these Nunes props, which are frustrating. So I just don't see myself having a bet on this main event as of now, unless something really sticks out. Unless like money pours in on the fight goes to decision, which maybe it does, but I can't lay minus 300 on the fight doesn't go in the spot. Do I think it finishes? Yeah, but could I also see Nunes going out there, playing it safe, trying to get her belt back and wrestling for 5 rounds like she did against GDR? I could also see that. So, yeah, I just don't really see an angle on this fight. I'm curious to see what you guys in the chat are saying as far as a bet goes. Gus saying Nunes round 1 or round 2. Yeah, we'll have to see what FanDuel puts out that Nunes round 1 at. Nunes parlay piece. Propaholic looking at the over 1.5 and hedging with that Nunes round 1. That could be a good way to play it. Mushroom liking violence. I am as well, but it just seems like they're all over it, sadly. Let's see. First round torn ACL. I hope not. There's been some injuries the last couple fights. Let's see here. I think we covered about. I saw a couple more. Nunes and the over 1.5 is my bet. If you think she's going to take that wrestling path, I could see it.
Yeah.
But yeah, Weezy, anything you're liking, because I can't find like one. Like there's nothing I would bet at this point.
Yeah, and because Nunes is such a big favorite, I kind of feel like that Nunes 1-2-3 prop that you could get on FanDuel might not even be plus money. It's rough to and that I wouldn't be going for. It's just not juicy enough to leave out the possibility of a late finish or a decision, especially with her ability to be able to win minutes on the ground. And I'm talking about Nunes there. So yeah, Nunes round 1, I'm looking to get something like plus 400 or better on a site that doesn't shit the bed as often as Bet Online does in terms of just being really stingy with these props, man. That's why they're first to the game, and then FanDuel always kind of ratchets it up a little bit over what DraftKings and Bet Online usually provides. So I'll be waiting to see what we can get on Nunes round 1. The numbers are telling me that that's probably the best way to play this. And you could get big plus money instead of having to lay minus 300 and hope that Nunes cuts weight well, that she brings a 5-round game plan and 5-round conditioning to push that game plan. So there's a lot of what ifs in this fight. And when you have that, it's hard to be confident and really kind of lay the hammer on one particular bet.
Yeah, I think I'm probably just going to be staying away here. I was going to say one other thing, but I forget what I was going to say. But yeah, I guess we can just we talked about everything, Weezy. We talked about the tail of the tape, the experience, the finish stats, the grappling stats, the striking stats, the strength of schedule. We talked about the line, the props. I guess all that's left to do is final pick, final prediction. What round you think? And you think it's going to be decision? And then also, what is your favorite bet for this fight?
So I would have to say that my favorite bet is going to be fight doesn't go to decision here. But I mean, it's probably, it's a parlay piece at best. I feel like I just don't want to lay. What is it? Even in reasonable spots where it's minus 215, minus 225, minus 227, minus 240. It just reminds me of laying minus 260 on Jai Herbert last week and then getting smoked. You've got to hit those bets 7, 8 out of 10 times in order to just do a little bit better than breaking even. So you need to be so confident. But the 5-round analytics really always tell you in bantamweight fights in the women's division that, violence is the way. Violence happens almost 80% of the time, or over 70% of the time. So it's a solid bet. And with these two fighters that are finishing at such a good rate, it's not, the stylistic matchup also favors what the benchmark says. So probably violence here. But I think my favorite bet is going to be Amanda Nunes round 1 at plus 400 or better.
Yep, I was going to say the same thing. Nunes round 1, if anything, just because, like you said, when she is finishing at 135, it is mostly in round 1. Like you said, we had one finish in round 5 as well against Pennington. But I think Nunes round 1, if anything, maybe a sprinkle at that. But I don't see myself betting on this main event as of now. The pick for me is going to be Nunes. Can't be too confident in it. I want to see her weigh in. If she looks good, maybe I'll have a little bit more confidence. But I will not be laying minus 265 on Amanda Nunes, which in hindsight, it could look like a steal. It really could. Like, she was minus 900 last time out, but I just don't want to really be finding out. So no bet for me. Weezy, we did it. We broke down the main event. Me and Lou are going live in about 5 minutes. We're going to head out of here. Let the people know where they can find you and what we have going on throughout the week, and also about probability tonight at 9:30.
Yeah, MMA Engine, MMA Engine, MMA Engine. You guys, you're already here, so there's absolutely no reason to leave. Just tune right in now to the Brady and Lou Betya breakdown of the Dana White Contender Series. After that, and after the Diehard MMA podcast, let's just go right back to the MMA Engine and get a data-driven look at all the prop and time props on this card. We got 13 fights to break down. It's only Monday night. These props are just dropping. So probability is going to be very important in getting out ahead of this line movement and finding ways to stack cash tickets like flapjacks for this pay-per-view event. And then you can also find me tomorrow night, 10 o'clock Central Time on my YouTube channel, Uncle Weezy, for just the tip. And, let's go right back to the MMA Engine here, Brady. I know that you are a very busy man today.
Yep, I think I'm going to do a total of like 6 or 7 total live streams and videos combined today. So it's going to be a long day still going. But yeah, guys, you can follow me on Twitter, DFS_numbers, Instagram, DFS by the numbers, and here on the MMA Engine tonight, probability 9:30. Definitely looking forward to that. And then about 4 minutes with Lou Betya doing some Contender Series talk and some betting. Be sure to tune into that as well. Best of luck, guys, for UFC 277. We'll talk to you guys very soon, and see you.